I've been there. I'm doing it. I'm sweating when I'm spending my ad dollars, trying to figure out the perfect formula and methodology because it's a no-brainer. Once you figure out how much your lead is worth, you're willing to put in as much as you need. When you set boundaries with people, it's attractive. People think, okay, this person values themselves and their company.
Just your quick backstory. You spent 14 years in digital marketing. You've worked with multiple Fortune 500 companies, Verizon, Apple, and Netflix. You've created a $50 million sales channel for Verizon. You've given talks about digital marketing all over the world, and you are certainly on the bleeding edge of marketing. You're who I talk to for all my strategies and tips and advice. You live down in Miami. You're married, a couple of kids. In your free time, you love to work out, water sports, hanging out on yachts. We've spent some time together in New York and out in the Hamptons and also in Palm Beach. And so, Roman, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. I want to spend a lot of time talking about digital marketing. There's so much happening and so much changing in sort of the world, the global economy. Things seem to be moving fast. Probably started happening like back in COVID, where a bunch of people who didn't know anything about the internet were first to like really learn about the internet and what social media was and how do you advertise yourself and how do you get known online. But you've been in the game for a long time. I just want to start off with like, what's your thoughts on sort of the state of digital marketing, state of the internet? Like, where do you think the opportunities are, and where should people who are like really trying to be a step ahead, where should they be focusing? And that's what I want to talk about today. So I want to kick it to you, just talk about your general thoughts about the internet and marketing.
All right. Well, great introduction. Great words, as always. We spent some time in the good spots, in the Hamptons and Palm Beach and in Miami. So, but to talk about digital marketing, it's interesting because when I got into it at first, this was in 2010, I thought I was already late to the game. 2010, I was hustling, making my money, going into Manhattan. I was living in Jersey at the time, going into Manhattan, putting on my headphones, listening to Jay-Z and trying to think about how I'm going to take over the city and make millions, I was working a sales job, doing that grind in the boiler room. And then I got a chance to work at a company doing some digital marketing. This CEO basically said, can you learn SEO and paid advertisement while you do it? Because all I know is website development. And that's when I fell in love with it. I looked at what Google is doing, Google's algorithm, where it's going, and I was just like, wow. This was back when we were still looking at the yellow pages to get some business from there. So this was way back. And, at that time, I was hearing things of augmented reality, AR. I was hearing that you're going to be able to take your phone and point it at the street and be able to see reviews and all that. So I thought I was late to the game, but it turns out that the game just started. People were just getting into it. And it's been a really great experience watching how it's progressed over time. And like you said, just in the last few years, has every single business realized that they need digital marketing?
You still seeing companies like really effectively use traditional marketing forms, or is it all kind of internet?
There's some companies doing direct marketing, but it tends to be paired up with digital marketing. So I don't see any more specifically just direct marketing because it's much harder to quantify. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense anymore because you can't really calculate how many people look at the billboard or
it's hard to get impressions from like eyeballs on a billboard. You have no idea.
Exactly. And so then the conversions get even more difficult. But I think that there is a part of that that's underutilized. There's always that old school catching up with the new school. A lot of these CRM platforms like HubSpot are really good at capitalizing on that. So getting a lead's information, taking them through the qualifying process, and then keeping in touch with them through direct mail and other forms of direct marketing. So I've seen some companies do it in a really interesting way. They'll stay, and that staying in touch with your prospective client is the most important thing these days. So there's so many touch points now. Why not utilize direct mail? Why not give them free gifts? Why not give them things that make them feel like you care about them?
So, where should my background's in real estate? I know a lot of real estate agents, new real estate agents, as well as experienced real estate agents. Where should people start to learn and think about? I think when you dive into this first, there's so many different channels. People are trying to learn about all these different platforms as well. Where should people like really start thinking about digital marketing and advertising themselves, either their personal brand or their business online with all these different channels?
That's a great question. The last 10 years of my digital marketing life has been really heavy SEO. I was just a big proponent of doing SEO, content marketing,
engine optimization,
search engine optimization,
really brand new,
making sure that you get on the first page of Google. And what I've came to learn is that it's just one of the traffic channels that should be focused on. And also there's a lot of data showing that it is reaching its cap. It's kind of going on a downturn because the algorithm is no longer giving you so many results. It's giving you a few. And with voice search, you are really getting one or two results. So the way that you're getting results now is changing so much. So I would cut out all the noise. And the reason I say SEO is just because I was just like a big cheerleader of SEO for such a long time. And so I'm sure that you hear of SEO, Facebook ads, Google ads, remarketing, the works. I think right now, if you can focus on one thing to get started, it is a form of paid ads. And I know that that is 101, pretty straightforward, but if you can find your niche, especially in a place like Facebook ads, I think that that's beneficial. So in essence, I think Facebook ads is a really great place to start because there are more people than ever that are on there with purchasing power.
Okay, so let's talk about Facebook ads. Let's try to dive into that a little bit. So you're going to the Facebook platform, you're setting up a manager account. You need like a page, I would imagine.
Yeah, you need a Facebook business page and ads manager.
And okay, so you have an ads manager account on Facebook, and you're going to get impressions showing up not just on like the Facebook platform, but I would imagine everything that Facebook or Meta owns. So probably also on Instagram. Is that where you would run your Facebook ads?
That would be secondary. So the reason that I'm such a big advocate now, Facebook ads, and by the way, I thought Facebook was dying just a few years ago.
That was my next part.
But there's, when grandma and grandpa get on Facebook, it also means that there's a lot more purchasing power that has come on there. It might not be the cool and hip place to go, but in terms of conversions, it is the place where it has the most sophisticated algorithm. So if you're a business that already has had sales or conversions, you can take that list and you can find and you can replicate it through Facebook. So your target audience can be replicable through Facebook.
What type of offerings, businesses do you think are better suited for Facebook, or are there any or is everything like would be good, or is there certain businesses that are like, nah, probably not best to advertise on Facebook, wouldn't be effective?
Well, let me tell you about the quality of the lead. So between Google ads and Facebook ads, and I kind of take myself back to saying Facebook and Google ads would be the place to start now. It is a dollar in, dollar out conversion that you can see. So if you have $1,000 to work with, you know that from that $1,000, you're going to be getting amazing data and probably a few sales if you do it right. Google ads is probably going to be more expensive. Facebook ads is going to be cheaper for your audience. But in order to get the right audience to convert, Google ads might be more direct, so it's more expensive. Facebook ads might be a little bit of a colder lead, so you might need to warm them up and you might need to take them through a sales process.
Okay. What's a good way to warm them up through that sales process? You're talking about a email drip campaign over the course of a few days, a course of a few weeks. Dive into warming up a lead.
Yeah. And we've both been in this for enough time that we know that there's so many different platforms that exist that's another part that makes it confusing. Do I need MailChimp? Do I need ActiveCampaign? What kind of landing page? Do I include phone numbers through CallRail? How do I connect them? So that has been something that I've been working on for the last few years, is really understanding how can this process simplify. And that's something that I came in touch with recently. And by the way, we've built, my agency and I, by the way, it's called Boostmybrand. We built a proprietary CRM that actually does that. But you're able to do that on other CRM platforms as well. For example, HubSpot, Salesforce. I think that building a lead funnel is so important. It's almost as important as an advertisement. So, for example, just to keep it very simple, a lead, sees you on Facebook, says, oh, this guy's pretty cool, I'm going to click on him. It takes him through a Facebook lead form, which qualifies them. If you're a real estate agent, you're probably thinking, am I buying a house in the next, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? That's the first qualification. Then they get to your landing page. So you can build this landing page. You don't need to build a website anymore the way you used to. It could be good in the future, but if you're just getting started out, build a landing page on a CRM. And I can share with you later my CRM as well. But you can build a landing page, a thank you page, a booking page, and so on. And so they land on the thank you page. They like what they see further. They click, okay, book now for a phone call. They go through another qualifying question, and the qualification process is what warms up the lead. So you're getting questions like, what is your range for your house that you're buying? Is it 200, 300? Is it a million? Is it 2 million? And so you get a better understanding of what this client is before you even talk to them. And once they go through that process, you can actually disqualify them as well. Or you can have something like appointment setters that disqualify them. So there's so many automated systems that you can plug and play these days that by the time they get to your phone, they're so warm or they're hot and they're ready to buy.
So I've never thought about disqualifying a lead. You hear a lot about qualifying leads and making sure, maybe they're the right fit, etc. But deliberately disqualifying them is, I guess, virtually the same thing, right?
It's funny. I have my process right now with my agency, and I have a bit of a higher ticket to get in. I'm looking as an agency. I have like my top offer is I'm working with companies who do about $25K per month in ad spend and increasing in that range. And so there's some people that see my ad and, obviously I can't really work with everybody. So when there are lead forms that get disqualified, I still want to take advantage of it. I might want to give them a different offer. But in that disqualification process, something happens to them mentally. First of all, they maybe look up to you a little bit more because you set a boundary, which goes in your personal life too, right? When you set boundaries with people, it's attractive. People think, okay, this person values themselves and their company. So when you do call them, if you decide to, if you want to upsell them in some capacity, they're so hot, they're ready to buy at that moment. Maybe not what you originally offered, but even more so. So I would say disqualifying a lead is even more magnetic than qualifying a lead.
That, like, my mind is kind of really running, especially when you relate it to when it comes to like interpersonal relationships.
That's a good segue.
It's a great segue because if somebody that you know or that you just meet says, I work with everybody, I date everybody, I'll do business with anyone, that is really unattractive. But someone who actually says, no, this is my parameters, these are the types of customers that I work with, these are the people I want in my circle, these are the people I want for friendships, etc., and I exclude everybody else, there's like a sense of exclusivity, and it almost implies added value as opposed to just a shotgun approach where I'll work with anybody. So I think that's just a fantastic point. As it relates,
Facebook, I just want to say, the company that we're talking about, Facebook, they got big on exclusivity. right? Not everybody could get on there at first. It was like university students or something like that. Because of
Mhm.
that, we can say that they probably got as successful as they did. If they opened it up to everybody, maybe it wouldn't be as successful today.
It's the nightclub approach. You know, there's a red velvet rope for a reason. It's like New York City Studio 54,
Yeah.
like the foundational of like a club. You're either in the club or you're out of the club, and if you're not ready yet to be in the club, sit on this wait list, and we'll let you know when we've got 10 spots open for you, and you'll be ushered in. So I think it's brilliant. I'm thinking about how even if you're an independent contractor, even if you're a real estate agent or you're another different type of small business, where it could be extremely valuable to have sort of these ancillary products or services. I don't care if it's like an ebook that you're selling on how to sell a house, or if you're a contractor and how to maintain your pool, that you just spent $85,000 to install this new pool, but maybe you want to learn some secrets to like not have to redo the lining in 2 months as opposed to when it should be done, just for example. So I think I'm starting to think, just from talking to you, how everybody should have an offer,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Something.
You should have the ultimate offer. And I think a lot of these big YouTube stars like Alex Hermosi talks about it, that $100 million offer. I think it's very important to have that. But I also think that there is a process in which you're going to have people who you won't be able to work with, but you can give them your service and added value at a low friction. So, meaning you can create something that doesn't take your time. And this goes back to selling your time as opposed to selling a product. I think that as a society, we're starting, and the COVID really kind of enhanced this. We're starting to move away further and further from just selling your time, and we're going towards value. And there's a lot of value that people can give along the way to selling that. And I want to bring back Alex Hermosi one more time, because he actually said that he does not work with businesses who make less than 3 million in revenue per year. And then you still need to qualify. But he gives you a ton of free content that you can work on to get yourself there. His sales pitch is, I want to get you to the point where I can actually work with you. But unfortunately, if you're not there yet, I can't work with you. I mean, how magnetic is that?
That's extremely magnetic, and I haven't dived too much into his content. I've certainly seen thumbnails and pictures around. Is he just providing general like sales and business consulting advice, or what value is what's his offer to businesses?
And I've kind of rounded up some of these guys and what they're talking about. First of all, value yourself higher than you think you should be valued. Price yourself higher, right? Understanding psychologically the intrinsic value of what you're offering is correlated to how much you're pricing yourself at. That's first of all. Second of all, understanding the value that you're bringing, like truly understanding it. Don't be a snake oil salesman. Like, know the value that you're bringing, and then make an offer that is a no-brainer, right? And for example, that is like a money back guarantee. That is what all of these new sales people are talking about. That's why you probably see a lot of these ads that are like, we'll get you this many leads, money back guarantee. I mean, how else, how can you even compete with that? That's, you obviously need to provide that money up front, but if you know you're going to get the same value and you have no risk, they take on all the risk, you're going to get so many customers. And there's a lot of data sets saying that by the time you get to that point, given that you do give that value, um, a lot of people, like most people, don't get the money back, right? They actually get the value that they wanted. It just works out. Um, Having that said, there's a lot of risk in pushing yourself to that limit, but that's what they're all talking about. Is creating like the best possible offer ever, getting as many people through the door and making it happen for them.
What's your take on preparation, study, coming up with a game plan versus just diving in, seeing what works, throwing stuff against the wall? Or should there really be like a combination of, all right, come up with a game plan, test, but the game plan is to test? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, It should be probably both, but you should give yourself a time limit on the preparation. And what I will say about that is I still think spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks is the best approach, because a lot of the time, what you think is going to work, what you even like, is maybe not what people like in your audience. To understand your audience before making a product to its full capacity is so important. And you could do that these days. What actually I see with a lot of my clients is their hesitation to start building a lead generating system and all of that goes into it, is that they're not ready just yet to release it to the public. They think they're gonna like F it up, right? So I think that you should get started right away. Start collecting data right away. What I recommend to people is build it quick and dirty. Build a quick landing page with an email caption, give some sort of offer, give like an ebook, build a few different email sequences. You can use ChatGPT, create emails these days. You don't need anything too fancy. Start collecting that list of people, because when you actually launch, you have a list of people to launch to.
So data and databases, I think, from my personal standpoint, are some like the most valuable things that you can actually start compiling and building. Because, I mean, if you're selling a product or service and there's nothing that proprietary about your product or service, the most valuable asset you have is probably your leads and your database of potential customers and actual customers. And then you can potentially, and give me your thoughts on this, create something proprietary around your actual, not necessarily, there might be users if you're selling a software or another different type of service where there are actually users on your platform, the technology platform. But my thinking is that you can actually create different profiles around your actual customers, and then that becomes the asset almost in and of itself, right?
You need to validate what you're working on. That's what I think. A lot of startups, especially in the age when startups were kind of going towards that unicorn, right? The unicorn evaluation, the early 2010s, when everybody was going for that investment, A, B, C. And what happened a lot of the time is a lot of people, saved up money from their day job, 50K, 100K, and they're like, perfect. I've been waiting to work on this particular product for so long. I have my life savings. Let me push it into it. And time again, the market told them that their product wasn't worth it, right? It didn't work. So they spent all that money on something that wasn't validated by the market. Now, it probably took them all their money to realize that a variation of their product would work. And it wouldn't even cost them that much. In today's world, we're in 2023, almost 2024, we have AI, we have platforms that are just pushing out information. You don't need that much money to start up anymore. You can create a minimal viable product, and I mean really minimal, and you can test the market. And this is also coming from the Kickstarter days, the crowdfunding. Most of those products were never even created before they got investment. Now, that whole strategy is a whole other thing, but creating some content around a product that doesn't even exist is okay. It's not against the rules. Figure out, if you take money from people, make sure you don't rob them. Make sure that you can give it back to them if you're not able to create it. But everybody and their mother is creating a course, and it hasn't been created yet, and you paid for early admission.
So I've read and I've known of a number of startups where they just throw up a landing page and they haven't necessarily even built out the technology yet, but they just simply take their early user signups and maybe even a prototype, like a Figma type click-through prototype where they haven't actually built out the tech yet, and then they use that to go out and they raise a pre-seed or a seed round, even sometimes multiple seven figures, just based on the fact that they've proven out that there's at least some type of demand, versus other people who go out, spend a ton of money on building out something. They don't talk to users, customers, and they think it's purely boils down to maybe marketing, I guess, at that point. But then they don't get any traction on the marketing side because maybe they're not solving a real problem. That could be it. Or their messaging kind of is whack, or it's bogus, or doesn't work, or it's ineffective. For the people who really feel like their product or service actually solves a problem, and it just actually boils down to getting that in front of the right people and communicating the right message, they're probably going to go through a lot of money on the marketing and the advertising because they're so convinced that they're solving a problem. And you talked about earlier in this conversation about knowing when to kind of pivot, knowing when to kind of like test, like how long a person should test. I guess it just boils down to like the size of their budget. When it comes to some of these platforms, maybe it depends on the product or the service, but I'm wondering, what's that dollar amount? Like, at what point do you realize you've thrown enough at whatever this is to realize it's not working? Is there a metric? Do you want to have $1.50 come back for every dollar you spend? Is it $2 or $3 for every dollar you spend? What's like maybe a general kind of return that you should be looking for when you're marketing a product or service digitally?
All right, I'll give you some trade secrets. Competitor research, man. Being able, in today's world, every company is already, whatever you're thinking about doing has already been done. Just make sure Siri popped up. There's a company out there that's doing it. There's an 800-pound gorilla that is doing it. You don't have to be the number one spot. You can be second, third, whatever. You can find out how much they're spending, how much they're doing, how much they're posting. So there are some tools out there. SimilarWeb is a really good one. And I think in the future, I'm going to just have to do some affiliate links with this so that people can sign up through this. Yeah. But that's just one. They actually break down for you what all your competition is doing and how much you will probably need to spend in order to enter the market. But that is not going to be the total amount that you need. That is very subjective because they've gone through a lot to get to that point. The thing is also I would say is so competitor research, but every industry is different. And I've seen some interesting stories. I know someone who's into chartering yachts, and they couldn't get their first sale before they started spending $25,000 per month on advertising spend. But here's the thing is that they would make that money back after they started spending that $25K. Before that, even right before that, they wouldn't necessarily see that return on investment or that qualitative user. So you have to figure out what is your niche and how much you are willing to spend. If you are getting into the yacht chartering business, you should probably have some more funds, or you should be partnering up with a company that's already been doing it. But there's other business models where it could be 10K, it could be 5K, it could be 1K, right? It's about testing, seeing your competitors, and understanding that eventually, you are going to hit a conversion. It just matters where that conversion is, and can you stay in the kitchen while it's hot? You know what I'm saying? Like, can you handle the heat until you get that conversion? Once you get that conversion, you know that you can always double, triple, and keep working on lowering it. But can you stay in the kitchen while it gets hot? A lot of people can't.
It's tough, especially if it's that 25K mark and you've spent 15 and you're looking for that return. Some people are, especially if they're brand new and every single dollar feels like a big deal to them. 5K, 10K, 15K, but it is going to take the spend to hit that 25K to realize, okay, you just made 150K back or 50K back. And so then at that point, it's worth it.
Exactly. So it's tough to say. From an outside perspective, it's easy to say. From an internal perspective, I've been there. I'm there. I'm doing it. I'm sweating when I'm spending my ad dollars, trying to figure out the perfect formula and methodology because it's a no-brainer. Once you figure out how much your lead is worth, you're willing to put in as much as you need, and you know how to build your business on that infrastructure.
So I love talking about specific platforms and, channels and websites, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. Now we've got Threads. I've not seen, or I'm not really aware of what the monetization is going to look like on something like Threads. Real quick, what's your thought on, a lot of kids these days on the TikTok, these internet gurus, drop shipping, they're doing Etsy marketplaces, where it seems like young people specifically are just sort of getting off the couch and making good money. Now, some of these individuals might be making more money showing people how to make money than actually making money themselves. But there are definitely a few of them, a handful of them, that are actually making legitimate money. I feel like underneath the hood, there's actually some sophistication to it, like knowing about SEO, knowing about pay-per-click, knowing about what the returns are. And I feel like people who actually dive deep into knowing the metrics and the mechanics will ultimately win out versus the people who are just throwing up a video and hoping for some type of organic virality. So I guess my question is, should people actually really dive into the mechanics and some study, partner up with a company like yours, or do some individual research about the actual mechanics versus just hoping and praying for organic growth? I would assume the answer is yes.
Yes. In short, yes. The kids are killing it these days.
They are killing it, but can you really just hope and pray for just things going viral? I mean, that can't really be a good strategy.
No, it's not. But you can be consistent with pushing out a lot of content. So, but I've seen it go in multiple ways. I've seen some really interesting case studies out there. People who uploaded 1,000 videos to YouTube, and they were just hoping on that they would become successful, and it didn't necessarily pan out. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of things. It's validating that what you're talking about, or who you are, or your market, is going to reward you. So, but you don't need to spend too much time in that. You need to just start testing. And it's really interesting. I listened to this one guy. He's a Russian guy named Petya. And he talks about this new age that we're in. So our grandparents, what they talked about, what they found community in, was way different than what we are today. They were struggling for money, but they were finding similar amounts of happiness, and they had different things that they were communicating on. It was a different life, right? They were working on providing you with the food, and so having enough food on the table was their whole goal, and they did that through the means that they knew. Now we're living in a society that is rewarding people for expressing themselves, and that is thanks to our grandparents and our parents who paved the way. And we need to do them a justice of being able to express our highest self. So it gets a little bit philosophical or spiritual, that a lot of people that are probably listening to this, maybe they know what they're doing and they're confident in it, or maybe they're just still trying to figure it out. Maybe they haven't found the right thing. And besides soul searching, it's actually about putting out your most authentic self and teaching what you have to teach. It might trigger you. It might make you feel like, oh, all these people are teaching about money-making schemes and whatever. But actually, we're living in an age where a lot of people are teaching what they're good at. And it's very good to learn from them. They're producing courses. They're making their money from platforms like Kajabi. They're creating courses. You're giving them some of your money because you believe in their value. And can I tell you that majority of the time, you will be getting nuggets of value, if not a whole entire brain explosion of what you could be doing with your life. So in short, to kind of come back to the question, you should be getting coaching. You should be trying all these different programs. Don't think that this kid who's super young, who's putting out information doesn't know what they're talking about. If you bought into their methodology, if you like something about them and you can spare the money, not only are you paying them for their value and increasing their value as you go, but you probably are going to learn a lot from them.
I think it's really become an attention game. It's value that really lasts. Like, everyone's running around trying to capture attention for whatever their product or service is. But I feel like those people who are really like have staying power are actually providing a value or service. You know, that's business and that's a transaction. You're going to pay me for X, but obviously you feel like whatever it is I'm giving you is worth more than the X, whatever that dollar amount is. And so people really struggle with two things. One, finding out what it is that they're good at and what their offer could potentially be. Let's say they're starting from scratch today. They have no offer. Maybe they have an expertise, but they haven't really figured out how to articulate that. And they want to find, I suppose the first step is, what's the good mean to do that? Are you going to do that through text? You can do that through video. You can do that through a course. You can do that through an ebook. So I guess that would be step one, right? What's your gift, talent, expertise, and then what form are you going to be able to like deliver that content?
Yeah, and to kind of conclude on that, your audience is out there. They're going to like how you look, some things that you do, how you speak, they are out there. So to your point before, don't be scared to pivot. Find your audience, find who likes you, and build around them. There's no reason to be so stubborn that what you think is correct, because the market will always prove you wrong. But if you start putting out content, if you stop kind of caring what people think and getting the right people to follow you, I think that there's an audience segment for everybody. I think that your audience is out there. More people are online than they've ever been before.
What's your take on quality versus quantity when it comes to delivering content, or even when it, around marketing or driving leads or signups or databases? Should people really just spray, throw against the wall, be a little bit more curated? What's your thinking there?
I'm always, it's obviously a dance. It's always been a dance. I'm always on the side of spray. I'm always on the side of just see what works. Even if you're a well-established brand. And the reason I say this is a little bit more of I want to say it's more of a practical, technical term. It's technical. When I look at Google's algorithm, I notice that, so when you're ranking for a certain keyword or key phrase, it doesn't necessarily have a direct selling point to your business. Not all the time, especially the ones that you can rank for. Your competitors, when you're searching for that keyword on Google, could be a journal, a magazine, could be Wikipedia, it doesn't have to be your direct competitor. Times have changed. And so you don't actually know who your competitor is as much as you think you do. You have your direct competitors, but you don't know who they are. Just like you don't fully know who your audience is. So yes, you should make all of your stuff qualitative. I'm a painter. I don't like to put out any kind of my paintings that are not qualitative. But at the same time, I don't go so rigid into it. I've learned how to dance with this. I put out as much as possible, and I see what works.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before somebody who had thrown like 1,000 videos on YouTube. So I was thinking, well, is it better to just really, for example, on YouTube, I'm trying to spend a lot more time on YouTube myself, like good quality of thumbnails, good title, make sure the first 30 seconds is really captivating, or just throw out a bunch of things, every other day and see what starts tracking and trending? I guess it's going to boil down to like both again. You're like really taking a meticulous scientific approach to the content and like what works. When I've listened to a couple of Mr. Beast's podcast interviews, he's like the king. The last video that he put out, I don't know how many millions he's spending on each and every single video. The fact that he can try to jam pack as much value or interest and attention into like every single second of the video so that nobody gets bored midway through 30 seconds in or 2 minutes in. I think that's probably what it is, because everything that we're doing right now with all this micro and short form content is just boiling down to like attention. And so how do you capture attention, whether it's a thumbnail, a pay-per-click ad, whether it's to a video offering? It's attention. It's curiosity. It's like intrigue, right?
Well, I want to say something to that, because I think the conversation should go to attention, but I just wanted to add that the point at which you get into the game will dictate a lot. So YouTube is a really good example. They went from as much content as possible to attention back to as much content as possible. Like right now, they're valuing how many hours of time is on your channel in the algorithm. People are sleeping on their videos on YouTube and they're gaining followers, you know?
Interesting. And I also listened to a guy yesterday. He was saying that in 75% of his highest performing videos, it's when people watch longer than 30 seconds. So yeah, I guess it boils down to attention and how long you can keep them engaged in the platform. What is some advice off the top of your head for somebody just getting started? Maybe they've experienced, they've run some ads before, they've kind of started, gave up. Maybe they've never run ads before. What's kind of your first kind of piece of advice to them?
Well, it's almost like if I was talking to myself when I was first getting started. What I always think about, what advice would I want to give myself after everything that I've learned? I wish I worked on the sales process and the sales funnel more than I did on gathering the traffic or the attention. Because the Instagram channels that have 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers, sometimes don't convert better than the ones that have 2,000 followers. But the ones that have 2,000 followers are gaining 100 or 200 people who are loyal fans. And if you can convert just a few of those and you have a good enough sales funnel, you can make money enough to sustain yourself. There's a lot of the hype that you can get caught up on. You can really try to shoot for the moon and kind of get overwhelmed with how much people are making online and just know that you're seeing a small percentage of them. So I would say create something small that people can part with their dollar on and work on making a good sales funnel, work on understanding what that looks like, and care less about what your immediate audience thinks of you. This is my problem. It's always been, is selling to friends and family on Instagram or Facebook. I always have hated that.
Yeah.
And most recently, I've challenged myself on that. And I've come to the conclusion that there's a good 10, 15 people who love it, who love what I have to say, who will buy from me if I provide the right type of value. So focus on the value that you're bringing and don't worry so much about the mass population. The people who like you will like you even if it's 10 or 15 people.
You've worked with a lot of like micro influencers, right?
Yeah.
But what is your thought on that as a strategy? I guess it should be one of the things people kind of throw into their toolkit, see if there is a market for maybe reaching out to even micro influencers, 10, 20,000 followers. The bigger people might be tough to get a hold of because they've got a bunch of different offers being thrown at them all day, every day for various different products and services. Thoughts on that kind of alongside maybe the digital marketing pay-per-click?
It's a game you should learn to play, but it's time intensive. So the space is in the mid-tier influencers. I don't necessarily believe in the micro influencers as much.
Okay.
I think that, the around 10,000 followers, maybe up to 30,000 followers, in that range. I've seen the best conversion rate, and then the easier people to talk to. It is more expensive when it comes to attention. So everything that we're doing is we're buying attention and seeing if it converts. Everything. So it's no different with influencers. It's more expensive, and it's going to help other parts of your business besides conversions. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, quick fire kind of chat storm, throw stuff at you. Like Threads is new. I know what I think about Threads, which is just like it's the same users from Instagram. I don't really see them actually capturing new users, but I don't know. I'm not underneath the hood there. What are your thoughts on Threads? Should everybody just sort of jump onto the next new thing because you never know what it could turn into? Or what do you think on that versus like a traditional Twitter?
I think that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk should brawl it out.
I wonder if that's actually going to happen.
I don't know. We're living in weird times for sure.
Yeah.
I'm always coming back to the technical aspect of things. I just think that it helps the algorithm. So there's two sides of it for me. One is that it helps with the algorithm for Instagram. So if you have if your reel or your post is getting pushed to a certain audience, having threads in the social signals of it all is going to help with Instagram in some capacity. Maybe it's not a high value when it comes to the algorithm, but it is something that it's probably going to look for. Does this, if it came down to two users, one has threads and one doesn't, and it has to choose which one to show you the content to, it probably is going to pick the one with threads. That's just my hunch. It's not backed by any data. And the other thing is, it's just a really great model that's been proven. It's crazy. 100 million users in like a week's time. It's blown every single other platform out of the water. I think it's just giving us a new age. It's dawned a new age where we can get 100 million users in a week. I mean, that's unfathomable. It's just wild. So look, get it, have it. Don't buy into people talking about how negative it is that you have to delete threads and Instagram and whatever, and that China's going to be monitoring you, whatever that everyone's on. You've already given away.
I'm one of those people.
You've already given away all of your privacy. Let's just be real.
100%.
We didn't talk about the fact that Instagram slowly, quietly released their rules and regulations during COVID that had some crazy stuff, and we all agreed to it. I don't know if you remember about this conversation happening. If you look at and there's a show on Black Mirror, the first one, if anyone has seen it. Have you seen it?
I've seen 2 episodes, but I've actually just recently got it. I watched it for the first time like last week.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, the new season, I don't like it so much, but then the first episode of the new season is the only one that truly matters. It's just, in essence, talking about how they use someone's life as a Netflix movie without their permission. And it's crazy, but it's so much closer to the truth than you think, that your life is being used for data sets. It really is, to better sell. So that's all I'll have to say is your stuff is already out there. Let's just hope that all these giants are decent enough people not to ruin our lives with this.
So let's say you're a person, like a lot of people I know, even me to a certain degree, very kind of skittish about privacy and the amount of data that's out there, but yet we're using iPhones, or we're already using the kind of the technology where our data is kind of out there. Should we at some point just embrace it and really kind of milk it for what it's worth in our businesses and to make a profit? Because I can't imagine you not being on the internet if you have a business or product or service and still trying to compete on like a global scale.
Yeah, go hard or go home. Rather you're in or you're out. There's just no in between. You're going to be fighting for people's attention. you're going to be looking for a certain level of fame and virality. If you're trying to play that middle game, you're going to continue to get middle results. So just go into it and just know that all your information is already out there. It's already been scraped, and let's just maybe be more involved in in some of these processes, right? And in these terms and conditions. Maybe not now, but maybe when some of these kids grow up to be lawyers and they can start helping us with some of these policy changes, let's do it. But until then, the world is actually a little bit screwed up under the hood, and it's much worse than just the privacy policies on threads.
For sure. Yeah, let's definitely do this again. This is a great chat. Where can people find out more about you or working with you on a personal level?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website, boostmybrand.co. And from there, you'll be able to get in touch with me if you want a product or anything like that. One thing I'm advocating right now, and it's coming soon, it's almost done, is the CRM platform that's going to have everything integrated into one. I'm really proud of it. I think that it's going to be a killer, and it's going to be super cheap to get started out. So maybe by the time you post this, I can give you a link and people can go to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to link everything down below. This will be live soon. Roman, thank you so much. It was a great chat. We're going to have you back. We're going to talk more about digital marketing and how everybody should be really staying close to the ground on digital marketing and kind of the cutting edge and the future of advertising on not only your personal brands, but businesses as well. So thanks so much for the chat.
Thank you, man. And I'm excited to see how you unfold and progress. And it's always exciting to see a fellow hustler. And from the times that you just stepped into the house that I was in the Hamptons, being like, listen, guys, I'm meant to be here. You guys are missing out. I can't wait to see that for the rest of the world.
Awesome. Never be afraid to reinvent yourself and keep expanding. And so thanks, Roman. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.